Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to get right into impeachment trial. That was really the big news of the day yesterday. They started off the impeachment trial of Donald Trump, the second impeachment trial, and 6 Republicans have sided in the initial voting to continue the trial. 6 Republicans have sided with the 100% of the Democrats that essentially voted yesterday to continue the impeachment trial. And we'll get into the details of that in just a moment. But before we go any further, we have to talk about our sponsor, BDU, otherwise known as Big Daddy Unlimited. BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited. They are our sponsor. To find the link to that, look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. You'll see a description of the show. Scroll down on that, and you will see links to our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited is your Second Amendment headquarters because they provide you with factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door on guns and ammunition. Yes, guns and ammunition, including tactical gear, swag, protective wear, end times if you want them, survival gear, all kind of things. Anything you can, knives, anything you can possibly imagine that's connected to the Second Amendment, Big Daddy Unlimited is your go-to place for factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door. And they are a defender of your Second Amendment rights. And we greatly appreciate our friends at Big Daddy Unlimited. We also have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. Remember the promo code JMT, in other words, the initials to John Martin Talk. You get 20% off JMT promo code. The Patriot Threads basically is your go-to place for patriotic threads. If you are interested in shirts and that type of thing that have a patriotic theme, go there, check them out. They also can help you with charity events. That's a really big deal. They're a total what they call fulfillment center, so they can design stuff, ship it directly to who you want, and they can even help you with diverting some of the profits to the charity of your choice. So check them out. Use the promo code JMT, 20% off, patriotthreads.org. We have Recoil TV as well. They're, in a sense, a partner with the show because we're now being archived on their network, and we're building a platform centered around Recoil TV. So you can download an app at your Apple Store, and also Google Play. Recoil TV, they're a go-to place for Second Amendment as well. Not necessarily for products, but demonstrations of the latest and greatest products, issues around the Second Amendment, that kind of thing. We're on there, and we're grateful to be there. We're building because big tech is censoring programs like ours, making it much more difficult for us to reach you. 2 things are happening. One is we need you, the listener, to be a bit more active and seek us out, whether it be on our YouTube channel, spell it out, John Martin Talks, whether it be on other forms of social media, whether it be go to our website, www.johnmartintalks.tv, where you can get our show archived, spreading that. Also, look at our sponsors and supporting them. As I tell you all the time, not everyone can be a fighter, but everyone can support those of us in the fight. And with that in mind, all of that, we are partnering up with Recoil TV. As I said, you can get the app there, and that's going to be a new platform we're going to be launching to actually make sure our show is spread far and wide. So check all of that out. Remember, www.johnmartintalks.tv, because we are determined to be your voice of freedom, and we need your help to get this word out. All right, let's move into the meat and potatoes of the program here. We're using a Washington Post template to kind of talk about what happened in our nation's capital, specifically in the Senate chambers, as the impeachment trial for Donald Trump day one. Now, the big deals will begin to happen, evidence, that kind of thing, more today. But yesterday, you had them convene in a formal process and all, very humdrum, very boring. But then they got into the House managers making their case for why because the big question of yesterday was whether or not the impeachment trial should go forward on a constitutional basis. Now, I maintain that this thing is unconstitutional from the beginning because, first of all, it's a bunch of drummed up charges against Donald Trump. But secondly, they're impeaching Citizen Trump now. Donald Trump, President Trump. I wish I didn't have to say this, but there is no President Trump right now. No President Trump in the White House. It is Joe Biden. God help us. We have to deal with the reality of the situation. Donald Trump is former president. He is now a citizen. He holds no office. I don't like saying that, but it's the fact right now. And so Citizen Trump should not be able to be impeached, let alone tried in the Senate. So the question before them yesterday was whether or not it was constitutional to proceed with an impeachment trial of a U.S. citizen. And so that's what was debated. Well, the House managers, which are basically the prosecutors, led by Mr. Raskin from Maryland, made their case. We're going to talk about some specifics in a moment. And then President Trump's lawyers made their case, each having 4 hours. They took a vote right after that and voted to basically continue with the impeachment of Donald Trump. And we'll give you the details of how they voted. First of all, it's easy to know how the Democrats voted. 100% of the Democrats voted to continue, that it was constitutional and continue with the impeachment of the president. 6 Republicans sided with them, and we'll talk about them individually in just a moment. But the article itself, and we showed, I think, Susan Collins. If we hadn't, we will in a minute. Senate voted along mostly partisan lines Tuesday to pursue Donald Trump's second impeachment trial after hours of arguments and the airing of a gripping documentary of the deadly Capitol riot that followed Trump's inflammatory rally on January 6th. Now, already this thing this story is totally biased because this last sentence here, it says followed Trump's inflammatory rally on January 6th. I watched the entire rally on January 6th. It didn't inspire me to want to go do any violence whatsoever. It's not inflammatory. It was factual. It was passionate. It was from the heart. It was patriotic, all of those things. But it was not inflammatory, at least from my perspective. And we can all have difference of opinions. At least we used to could. Now it seems like there's only one opinion that we can have, and that is that Donald Trump and all his supporters, bad people, possibly terrorists, and those on the left, they can say and do whatever they want. It don't matter because they are running the show. But I like how they say mostly partisan lines. We showed a picture, maybe we can pull it back up, of Susan Collins. And I'm not trying to pick on her specifically, but I think she represents the senator from Maine, basically the 6 that voted against the president yesterday. Because I ask you, really, what is the difference? And especially if you're from Maine and you have a personal knowledge of this, what is the difference between Susan Collins and the Democrat that she beat in the general election in 2020? What's the difference? Because I don't know anything about her opponent. Didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. But I'm looking at what Susan Collins is doing, and I can't imagine there's all that much difference between her and her opponent. I'm sure there are some differences, but you might say, well, if Susan Collins wasn't up there and the Democrat was there, well, what would be different as far as what we still have Chuck Schumer? And even if somehow we had another Republican, we'd have pulled out the race in Georgia. Does it really matter who the leader of the Senate is when you're looking at Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer as your choices? I don't think Mitch McConnell, he doesn't represent me, I can tell you that. And I'm a Republican, but he doesn't represent very little, maybe on Supreme Court judges and the judges at the lower, because that's about the only thing I can think of that Mitch McConnell represents me. He's in the pocket of China. He's literally in bed with him, with his wife, who is like the heiress to the big, one of the biggest, if not the biggest shipping conglomerates coming out of China. He's been anti-Trump from the very beginning. I don't know. What is the difference between them? I don't see that much difference. And Susan Collins, I can't see any difference. But 44 voted that it was unconstitutional. In other words, 44 of the potential 50 Republicans, Democrats, they're a lost cause. But the Republicans voted that it was unconstitutional. Well, I think it should end right now, shouldn't it? Shouldn't the trial end right now? Shouldn't somebody, is there no one on the Democratic side that it has any principles? Because this is a waste of time at this point. Because they need 17 Republicans to vote with 100% of the Democrats in order to actually convict Donald Trump. Now, as I said yesterday, I don't trust any of them on any side of the aisle. Maybe Rand Paul, maybe Ted Cruz, maybe Josh Hawley, and there's probably a few more. But I don't trust any of them because I think the only thing keeping the majority of the Republicans in line is not their fear of Donald Trump. They're trying to ghost him. It's their fear of you, the American people that voted for him. That's who they're afraid of. They're afraid of you. And I talked about that yesterday. The best way to look at our podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel, spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. You can see us, of course, at www.johnmartintalks.tv and Recoil TV as well. So check us out. There are multiple places, including America's Voice News, by the way. We're not on there live, but we are archived on their streaming service, so you can download the app for America's Voice News on your Android or your iPhone for free. Go to Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219 Dish Network, and Pluto Channel. Check them out, but look at the show tabs on there. Click on that, and you can find our show daily archive there, America's Voice News, which is an excellent alternative to the mainstream media. So I say that this thing should end right now, right? Because if it's going to take 17 Republicans to convict Donald Trump, if you assume, and you know what assuming does, but if you assume for the sake of conversations that 44 Republicans actually believe that this trial is unconstitutional, then what difference would it make what evidence they presented? If you believe the trial is unconstitutional, how can you possibly vote to convict someone in a trial that you believe is unconstitutional? So is there no one out there on the Democrat side, because they would discount a Republican, that can stand up and say, let's end this thing now because, it's not going to make any difference. Now, we know that's not going to happen, and I'm going to read you this next paragraph, and you'll see why. This is why it won't end. This is why first of all, there's no principled people up there, probably on either side of the aisle hardly, but certainly not on the Democrats. Aided by the graphic 13-minute video that spliced violent images of the Capitol siege with Trump's rhetoric, Representative Jamie Raskin, he is the manager, the head of the House managers, and other impeachment managers delivered an impassioned account of the physical and emotional trauma to lawmakers, police staffers, and local residents. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason they won't end it is it's officially become a show trial. Because unless somebody is going to go against their conscience and vote to impeach the president, convict the president in what they voted yesterday as unconstitutional, then what is it? It's just a show trial. It's tugging at the emotions. It's trying to ghost Donald Trump. But what it's really trying to do is intimidate the American people that voted for Donald Trump, to either piss them off, go back and say, no mas, I'm not voting for anybody again, or to be horrified or whatever. They're trying to crack the Trump base. And if they do, if polling shows that they have, then they might actually convict the president. It wouldn't surprise me. But absent any of that, it's become a show trial. That's all it is. They said, this is back to the article. It says, they said there was no January exception, they being the House managers trying to convict the president, in the Constitution, meaning that a president couldn't escape accountability through impeachment just because he had left office before the trial. Now keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is true that the House voted to impeach Donald Trump before he left office. But they did not even turn over the article of impeachment. I think there's only one article to the Senate, which they're required to get the trial started, until after Donald Trump was out of office, and Joe Biden was at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. God help us. So, I mean, that alone to me shows that it's unconstitutional, because they didn't. It's not like they're making a case that they impeached him while he was still president. But I don't see how you can officially impeach someone when you haven't delivered the articles to the U.S. Senate, which is required by the Constitution. And they did that after President Trump became Citizen Trump. But Raskin of Trump said of President Trump's behavior, if that's not an impeachable offense, talking about all this video he showed, then there is no such thing. So if that's not impeachable, so, this one thing is the straw that broke the camel's back, maybe, impeaching Donald Trump. The lawyers for Donald Trump, the gentleman from Alabama, actually was probably the better of the two, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But I want to play you a brief snippet from his statements when he had his chance to get up there, and he played a video that shows just how ludicrous it is that now is the time to impeach Donald Trump, when they've been talking about impeaching Donald Trump literally on a daily basis since before he became president, let alone actually president. Let's roll this tape.
Function of the insatiable lust for impeachment in the House for the past 4 years. Consider this.
I want to say this for Donald Trump, who I may well be voting to impeach.
Donald Trump has already done a number of things which legitimately raise the question of impeachment.
I don't respect this president, and I will fight every day until he is impeached.
That is grounds to start impeachment proceedings. Those are grounds to start impeachment. Those are grounds to start impeachment proceedings. Yes, I think that's grounds to start impeachment proceedings.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
I continue to say, impeach him! Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
So we're calling upon the House to begin impeachment hearings immediately.
On the impeachment of Donald Trump, would you vote yes or no?
I would vote yes.
I would vote to impeach.
Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
But the fact is, I introduced articles of impeachment in July of 2017.
If we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
My oath requires me to be for impeachment, have impeachment hearings, and use the scarlet eye on his chest.
Representatives should begin impeachment proceedings against this president.
It is time to bring impeachment charges against him. Bring impeachment charges.
My personal view is that he richly deserves impeachment.
I'm here at an impeachment rally, and we are ready to impeach them!
Crazy.
Relevant timeline in the House.
That's good enough. I think that little montage there does an excellent job of showing that the Democrats have been talking about and acting upon and filing impeachment articles for Donald Trump since before he ever even became president. They started talking about, literally about 19 minutes after Donald Trump was inaugurated, the Washington Post put out a story that said that they need to impeach Donald Trump. So this idea that whatever happened in the Capitol, which was not incited by Donald Trump, and I'm not downplaying what happened in the Capitol, but what happened in the Capitol is not like the final straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. They've been piling on logs on top of Donald Trump's camel for a long time, let alone straws. So they're prejudiced, period. You heard multiple members of Congress there say that they were going to vote to impeach Donald Trump before any evidence was even presented. And some of the stuff they were talking about was the Russia probe, but they were talking about impeaching Donald Trump for Russia before the probe even started, before the Mueller investigation even started, and even after Mueller reported that no American, not just Donald Trump, but no American actually colluded with the Russians. They still said it was reason to impeach Donald Trump. So they spent like $40 million or more, 2 years, to come to a conclusion that no one colluded with the Russians, but yet they still wanted to impeach Donald Trump. I mean, the truth would not set them free, that's for sure. But the Senate swiftly voted 56 to 44 against Trump. Basically, they voted against the Constitution, is what they did. The proceedings will resume at noon today. So I say end it now. If you know for a fact that if 44 senators voted that this was unconstitutional, why is there no one on the Democratic side to actually say, well, let's end it now? Because I showed they just want it to be a show trial. Where is Unity Joe? Where is Mr. Need unity? My whole theme is Unity Joe. Because he's too busy being King Joe. That's why. Biden said, oh, I'm not watching it. I got a job to do. I guess being king is a full-time job. He's got to rest his hand maybe, from all the 50 some odd executive orders that he's already put through. But Joe Biden, if he truly wanted to be a unifier, wouldn't he take Donald Trump's lead when it came to Hillary Clinton and everybody used to chant lock her up and everything else? What did Donald Trump say about that? Now, he caught some grief from some of his supporters because he said Hillary suffered enough. We're not going to pursue Hillary Clinton. I'm sure he regrets some of that aspect now. But at the time, I actually thought it was probably the right thing to do because, once the election has spoken, then we need to get on with the business of governing. But not the Democrats. No, not Unity Joe, who is really King Joe. Biden, if he were any leader at all, would stand up and say, look, it's not going to happen. I don't think that the Democrats should pursue this impeachment of Donald Trump any further for the good of the nation, for trying to actually unify the nation. If they're not just cheap words, but you have some meaning, it should end now. Do I expect it to? No, I don't at all. But it should. The House impeachment managers leaned on legal rulings, images, and emotion. Democrats always want to tug at the heartstrings, particularly Raskin's accounting of his return to the chamber on January 6th for the first time after burying his son. Now, before I play this next video, I'm not saying it's disingenuous. I'm also not taking away from the tragic loss of a child. It is the most tragic thing that can happen to a family is the loss of the child. But my question, ladies and gentlemen, which needs to be asked, is how is this relevant to Donald Trump's impeachment? How is the tragedy that befell Raskin's family, which had nothing to do with the Capitol, by the way, in any way, shape, or form tied into the president? It's because they are trying to make an emotional case against Donald Trump because they don't have a factual case against Donald Trump. So in the idea of fairness, I'm going to play what Mr. Raskin said, and I agree with some aspects of it as far as the tragedy of it, but I don't see how this is relevant to the impeachment of Donald Trump. But in fairness, I'll play it and you decide. Check it out.
And when they were finally rescued over an hour later by Capitol officers, and we were together, I hugged them and I apologized, and I told my daughter Tabitha, who's 24 and a brilliant algebra teacher in Teach for America. Now, I told her how sorry I was, and I promised her that it would not be like this again the next time she came back to the Capitol with me. And you know what she said? She said, Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol. Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest.
That's good enough. I mean, I feel for it, and I'm not saying what he's saying is not genuine. I have little doubt that the people react that way. I understand where his daughter was coming from, saying after what I saw today, I don't want to come back to the Capitol. Now, this is probably, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I wish some of the people at the Capitol, some of the legislators actually felt that way. Maybe we'd be better off. But my question here, and I think it's a legitimate, although tough question, is what does what Raskin's saying there have to do with the facts of impeaching Donald Trump, Citizen Trump? I would say zero, other than the fact that they're trying to make an emotional case because they have no factual case. That's what this is all about. But in arguments that even some Republicans called incoherent, talking about Donald Trump's lawyers, the former president's defense lawyers addressed the crux of the debate, the constitution of the proceedings, only late in their presentation. Now, I actually agree with the professor. Professor Dershowitz. I saw him on Newsmax a couple times in the last few days, and he said that the only real defense Donald Trump should present is that this trial is unconstitutional, and that what I said on January 6th was free speech, was not incitement, was no different, no better, no worse than any others, and I did not incite violence. That basically should be the defense. And I think he's absolutely right on that. But here's my question. Does Citizen Trump even need to put up a defense? Really? I mean, really, does he need to? And I know that they're going to, and they're putting all, I mean, they got to fill 4 hours. That's a long time. But what if Donald Trump actually, as Citizen Trump, basically just said, my defense is this is unconstitutional sham trial, and I did nothing to incite violence on January 6th, and play the entire speech that he gave on January 6th and say, that's it. It's unconstitutional, and I didn't incite violence to boot. I don't know that he needs any more defense than that. And let the Democrats and the rhino Republicans, and I said the other day, I may quit using that term because I think they're just swamp rats, period, regardless of party. I don't know that they're not representative of the Republican Party. See, because I'm beginning to believe that the Republican Party at the highest levels is not the party that elected Donald Trump. That's you. That the Republican Party is more Mitch McConnell than Donald Trump. And I'm becoming more and more to that conclusion, and I'm really fed up with it. But as you know, my main goal is to prevent, and hopefully at least slow down, but prevent the total takeover of the progressive left of this country. That is my intent, and that is my goal. And I don't really care how we get there, which party does it, whether it's a third party, but I got to analyze everything through that lens. Because if we don't stop that, in my opinion, it doesn't matter which party's in charge, because we will lose the nation as a whole. I don't know if you saw this, but it's becoming where the things that are just usual and customary, patriotic, that all Americans basically used to agree on, are now controversial. I mean, we know about the flag and the kneeling and the Star-Spangled Banner, but do you see the latest 2 stories on that? A couple of days ago, Owen Burgess, or Burgess Owen, I'm sorry, the new congressman from Utah, a great guy. If you don't know much about him, just check him out. He was actually on one of the committees. I want to say it was the Judiciary Committee, but don't hold me to that. And he said that they ought to start every committee hearing with the Pledge of Allegiance, because his point would be that would show the American people that there's at least something that we all agree on. And he was shot down totally, beat up totally, literally almost called an Uncle Tom for saying it, because he's a black guy. Check out the video of that. It's pretty cool. We might do a story on that Friday or something. I still like to cover that story. And then the latest thing just came out that Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks, has now put out that he is going to stop the playing of the national anthem at any of the events that he holds. In other words, the Dallas Mavericks, he owns that stadium and a few other things. So the things that used to bind us together are now being not only controversy, but used to tear us apart. So to me, the idea that we need to maybe support Republicans, I don't know, third party, I'm not sure. As I say, my whole goal now has nothing to do with Republicans or Democrats. I am looking at the politics of this nation through the lens of trying to prevent the progressive leftists from taking over this country. And it may be too late. I'm hoping not. but I'm going to look at where I put my money, my mouth, my energy, my vote, everything for that sole purpose. And I'm even doing it at the dog catcher level, so to speak. In other words, local politics. I'm viewing people through that lens because to me, that is the most important question. Yeah, I'd like the roads paved in my county, definitely. But I want to know that you actually support the U.S. Constitution, period. If you don't, I'm not voting for you. I don't care what party you are. But Citizen Trump, really, defense, it's unconstitutional, and nothing I said on January 6th was incitement to violence. That's it. And let the Democrats and these rhinos, whatever you want to call them, Republicans, put all their cases up there, and the American people decide what is real and what is total BS. In a distinct appeal to the Republican Party that has long prided itself on its support of law enforcement, Raskin detailed the injuries suffered by 140 Capitol police officers that day, such as brain damage, gouged eyes, heart attacks, and mental trauma. At least 2 have died by suicide. Now, that is tragic. All that happened up there is tragic. The Dems now are ready to support the police, and they're worried about suicide. How about the rampant suicide that is happening in our country right now because we're still shut down in many places and our schools won't open, that the teachers union in places like Chicago and LA put their own interest above the kids they're teaching, and suicide is going up among children and among people in general because they're feeling depressed. How about that? And as far as support for the police, what about our commander-in-chief support for the police? And yes, I'm talking about Joe Biden. I'm not accusing any voter mod. We don't say the F word here. We call it mod. I'm not even talking about any of that. But Biden is in the White House. We have to deal with it. He could stop this, but he won't. But when they start talking about that they still love the police and they're the party of police, remember who wants to defund the police. This is candidate Joe Biden. Either he's lying then or he's lying now or both. But this is what he said about taking money away from the police. Check it out.
Plus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we also need...
There you go. Redirect some of the fund. Now, you can play on words and everything else, but let me ask you this for you snowflakes out there that are watching. I know some of y'all still troll me all the time, which I think is actually a badge of honor, so to speak. Must mean I'm touching a nerve there. But let me ask you snowflakes out there this. If you went in to your boss, you got boss called in and said, "Hey, Joe or Sally, I need to talk to you." And they go, "Okay. Well, you've been doing a good job, but we just hired this young gal here, and we're going to, instead of giving you the raise that I talked about giving you, I've actually decided to reallocate some of your money over to her." Would you think that was a cut in pay or not? So you're actually going to take home less money, and she's going to take home more money because she's getting some of yours reallocated. Come on, man, as old Biden would say, come on, man. So how can you talk about you're actually for the police and try to make a case that now you're the party of the police, when for another thing is, we're getting more and more evidence, and maybe some of this will come out in the impeachment trial, that members of Congress, Democratic members of Congress, including Ocasio-Cortez, said she knew 2 weeks before January 6th that there was going to be some type of attack on the Capitol. What did they do to prepare to defend the Capitol, to prepare the police to make sure that they had adequate resources? Remember that there's evidence out there now that there was a proposal to put the National Guard up there, and they rejected it. Of course, now they want the National Guard up there now, and it's all for show as well. A $500 million show for the U.S. taxpayer. So it just gets me when they talk out of both sides of their mouth. But Raskin went on to say, I should call him Rascal, I guess, but Raskin went on to say, he says, senators This cannot be our future. This cannot be the future of America. We cannot have presidents inciting and mobilizing mob violence. Has he presented any evidence of that? I'd like to see it, because what he presented yesterday was just emotional stuff. No evidence. They doing the emotional thing because they don't have any evidence. Remember that as you watch this. And mobilizing mob violence against our government and our institutions because they refuse, talking about Trump supporters and Donald Trump, they refuse to accept the will of the people under the Constitution of the United States. So they're all about they're wrapping themselves in the flag. Let me read this part again. They refuse to accept the will of the people under the Constitution of the United States. Will of the people. So they're basically saying, and I played you, I'm not going to show this video before, but I played it yesterday, I think, where this idea of challenging the elections on the day they're supposed to be certified is routine by Democrats. The last three Republican presidents, including Donald Trump, had it challenged at the same time as Donald Trump, as Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and others challenged it on January 6th. It's been done the last three times a Republican won. It's not unusual. You know, maybe what happened is unusual and unacceptable. I would agree with that. But as far as accepting the will of the people, I got a few videos I'm going to play with that show that is total, as Biden would say, malarkey. Here is Joe Biden saying that Donald Trump was an illegitimate president of the United States. Check it out.
He is an illegitimate president in my mind. That's it. I think all the talk about impeachment and what the Democrats should do, that's fine. It's theoretical at this point. Let them investigate. Let them subpoena. Let them go to the Supreme Court. He's illegitimate. And my biggest fear is that he's going to do it again with the help of Vlad, his best pal, and we're going to be stuck for 6 more years with this guy. And that is terrifying. It's terrifying.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree. And one of the things we have...
absolutely agree. There's Joe Biden saying he absolutely agrees that Donald Trump was illegitimate. So, as far as I can tell, the will of the American people voted for Donald Trump to be president of the United States. But Joe Biden, who is now up there, and people are saying, oh, we just need to accept, that he won. He definitely won the most ballots. I'm not saying there's any voter mod going on, but we never got our day in court regardless of what they're saying. And I go back to that Supreme Court. We won't get it too deep into it now, but the SCOTUS case that was brought on by Texas, that was the one shot that the American people who supported Donald Trump had to have their day in court, and the Supreme Court would not take up the case. There's so much unconstitutional stuff happening right now. It goes back to what I said several years ago, before Donald Trump even came on the political scene, that we've been living in a post-constitutional age for quite some time. But there you have Biden not accepting the will of the people. Now I want to play you another one. This is Nancy Pelosi. Pay close attention to this, because she is saying, and this is several years old now, she is saying that the impeachment of Donald Trump started soon after he was inaugurated. Because listen to what she's talking about. Check it out.
One of the biggest criticisms of the process has been the speed at which the House Democrats are moving. If this is, but seriously though, seriously.
It's been going on for 22 months, okay? 2.5 years, actually.
There has been some criticism, though, I will say, about whether or not you should move forward before the end of the year or wait for the courts. Why do you think now is the time to move?
Well, I think we're not moving with speed. This, was it 2.5 years ago that they initiated?
That's good enough. She's saying 2.5 years ago, and that was like 3 years ago. So she's saying that they've been trying to impeach Donald Trump since he was elected. She's admitting that. Because remember at the time there was talk that Pelosi was reluctant to impeach Donald Trump. That was total nonsense from the start. She wasn't reluctant. She was just putting her finger to the wind, because to understand Nancy Pelosi, all you have to understand is that she will do anything to hold on to her power. Anything. And once you understand that, then you understand Nancy Pelosi. Because that's her calculation is never what's in the best interest of the American people. Because she thinks she is in the best interest of the American people. So with that, I guess she does. But it's all about her power. So she never accepted the will of the American people. And so you got King Joe and Queen Nancy, the leaders of the Democratic Party, never accepted that. And we also showed you the video earlier that the Trump's lawyers put up there, that you had the Twitter twats, that's what I call the squad, saying, oh yeah, impeach him, all the way down. And then, of course, Donald Trump was supposed to just accept that Joe Biden is now the president and there was no voter mod and that he was legitimately elected to the president of the United States, and Donald Trump is just supposed to bow down to that. But what about Hillary Rodham Clinton? Has she ever, even to this day, accepted that Donald Trump was the legitimate president of the United States and beat her? There's multiple videos, but I want to play one for you. CBS Morning News interviewed Hillary when her and her daughter came out with this book. It's a very long video. We're only going to play a few snippets of it. But listen to Hillary Clinton talking about whether Donald Trump was ever the legitimate president of the United States. Check it out.
Except for Donald Trump's. Lock her up is still a big popular line.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And
that's good enough. It's hard for me to watch her. But he knows, so Donald Trump knows that he's the illegitimate president of the United States. So all this crap that they're putting out there trying to tug at the emotions, when the Democrats, if anything, they should be being impeached up there, if anything, man. But it's just crazy. So I want to get into, now we'll move along. I want to talk briefly about what I call the dirty half dozen. I want to read you the names of the U.S. senators that voted that it was constitutional, in other words, voted against the president. But they voted really against the Constitution, in my opinion, but it's opinionated fact nonetheless. Susan Collins from Maine, I told you. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, big surprise, right? Mitt Romney, God. Patrick Toomey, thank God he's not running again. And Ben Sasse of Nebraska. These are the same five that voted against Rand Paul's deal a week or so ago. But now, Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican Louisiana, he joined that five to make it six that voted against the Constitution. Not even just Donald Trump, in my opinion, against the Constitution. So let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I said this yesterday, but if I say it, it bears repeating. Another reason to stay in the Republican Party is to vote out of spite. Get rid of these people. Spite, and I looked up the definition, a desire to hurt, annoy, or offend someone. I'm not trying to really hurt anyone other than get their feelings hurt. But I am more than ready to annoy and defend all of these wannabe so-called conservatives, these people who are supposed to be the Constitution. These six need to go tomorrow if possible. And I'm talking about manning the political ramparts and vote them out. But this is what Cassidy of Louisiana said. He said, anyone that listened to those arguments, talking about the House managers versus the attorneys for Trump, would recognize that the House managers are focused, organized. They relied both upon precedent, the Constitution, and legal scholars. They made a compelling argument. So they were much better than Trump's lawyers, and most people seem to think that. But they've had a lot of practice now, haven't they? They had a dress rehearsal for this one a year ago. So no wonder they're better. You get good at what you do. You keep impeaching the guy, you probably get better at it. In contrast, Cassidy said, Trump's team was disorganized. May be true, but that's not a crime. It's something you might sue him for liably or in court, but it's not a crime. And let me just tell you, Donald Trump's total defense could literally be summed up in his own words. Check this out.
The Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit.
That's right. That could be really and truly his entire defense. We need to decide whether we're going to keep this ridiculous BS going Or y'all going to get busy with, I guess, destroying the rest of America, because that's what they're trying to do. Let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't trust any of them. But how long the people are asking, how long is this thing going to last? And here's a statement from Al Green, not the Reverend Al Green, but Al Green of Texas, that filed articles of impeachment literally right after Donald Trump got elected. He said, we don't want to rush to justice. He said, but by the same token, we don't want to unnecessarily delay. You know what that translates to mean? It means, what are the ratings for this? How many people are watching it? And which way are they looking? That's how long this trial is going to last. It's not going to last one day longer than the American people are willing to put up. So it's up to you. Because like I say here, about Ben Franklin, people ask me all the time, what are we going to do? What do we need to do? Well, I can tell you this. Go back to our founders. Go back to the Constitution. Ben Franklin said, after signing the Declaration of Independence, he said, we better hang together or we're surely going to hang separately. And that's exactly what's happening now to Trump supporters. If we don't hang together, they're going to hang us separately through social media, through banks, Bank of America. I mean, the list is growing every single day. I mean, we're being compared to ISIS. What they're trying to do is to ghost. There's a twofold thing here that they're trying to do. They're trying to ghost Donald Trump, make it just like the pharaohs erase him from the temple wall, and they want to. They're walking this tightrope. This is what the Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to ghost Donald Trump and at the same time keep his supporters locked into the party. Good luck with that, because I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are smarter than that. So I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all of our social media sites, like them and share them with others. Remember our YouTube channel, spell it out, John Martin Talks. We're out of Facebook jail, so I can start responding, and I promise to start doing that today. But I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation, and those of us who feel compelled to, including, I guess, Nancy Pelosi. I'm praying for President Trump, because he certainly deserves it. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.